Wake up from the darkness. Look out on peaceful skies. Living a life of hope. Planting the seeds we sow. Create with all your passion. Embrace with all your faith. Goodwill with every step. Truthful with every breath.
Good afternoon. My name is James Lynch. I'm the current president of the Buddhist Council of New York. And I'm so thankful that you all could come here today. I would also like to ring the bell. And I wanted to know before I even said that, is Reverend Tenku Ruff here? Is she here? She's not. But I would like to ring the bell in remembrance of the late monk who recently passed away, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, and for his amazing contributions to extend the true essence of Buddhism worldwide. And here she is. She's coming right on time. Right on time. No coincidence in the universe. And here comes Pastor Gilman as well. But Tenku, as you're coming in, Tenku, I would like for you to, Tenku, can you hear me? Reverend Tenku? Reverend Tenku? Thank you. Thank you for being here. I would like for you to make the announcement of the person who passed away this morning, please. Can you do that?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yes, can you give it now? It's perfect timing. You came exactly at the moment I was about to ring the bell. So that's good.
Just for the people here, you mean?
Yes, so they can know. No, they're going to know, and then I'm going to ring the bell on behalf of Kodo and Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, Kodo Boyd died yesterday. So I think you all remember her she's come to a lot of our meetings and was on a panel discussion. James, weren't you on there?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And yeah, really lovely human, deeply humble, very grounded in her practice, and is really manifesting the Dharma in the way she lived.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ring the bell on behalf of Kodo Boyd and Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, again, for their amazing contributions to extend the true essence of Buddhism worldwide. And let's just have a moment of silent meditation and settling. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. In remembrance of Thich Nhat Hanh, he always used to say, we don't strike the bell, we invite the bell. And I always remember that guidance that he gave. And again, as the current president of the Buddhist Council of New York, and on behalf of the entire council and the Buddhist membership here today that we represent, a lot of whom could not be here, but I want to welcome you to this year's Buddhist Forum and focus on compassion, kindness, and a community of involvement. Sorry about that, of involvement. And the sub-theme of no mud, no lotus, with this phrase being done in remembrance of the late Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh. It has been the focus of the council in recent years, as many of you know, to bring our voices to key issues that impact New York City, like healthcare, Rikers Island reform, hunger, gun violence, immigration, healthcare, and homelessness. And as we face the COVID pandemic, we've had to face many difficult challenges together, from death to the disruption of our rituals surrounding births and deaths, and to even how we grieve. And yet, we have seen our city in recent days pressed in more ways than ever on critical crisis after crisis confronting our beloved community. From police assassinations innocent children shot in our boroughs, and the continuing unprovoked attacks on Asian Americans continue to have us question how we can make it together going forward. As a Buddhist, I do not for one moment believe in coincidence. I believe that the great life force of the universe has played and placed us in this time and this place so that we can help heal the pain and suffering that collectively confronts us. Indeed, as the president of Risho Kosakai, of which I'm a member, Nichikyo Niwano, has recently stated, these are the times when we should reconsider what we value most. As I prepared for today, I was thinking, what do we as a Buddhist community, a Mahasangha, if you will, collectively value most in our civic engagement with our world? So that is why we're coming together today, in part, to discuss as a Mahasangha what we value most. From our greater community, we have such notable presenters as Venerable Dhamajothi, Reverend Joan Hoeberichts. I'm sorry about that. Didn't get her last name right. Hoeberichts, Reverend T.K. Nakagaki, Venerable Youwang, Reverend Tenku, Reverend Daiken Nelson. And thankfully, at this critical juncture in our city's history, and with the historic election of Mayor Eric Adams, we have a mayor who has sent out a clarion call to the religious community for us to help heal and save our city. It may sound, hyperbolic, but yes, save our city. And it is why the new mayor has created what he has called, quote, the most important agency in New York City, end quote. I know that he said it because I, along with Venerable Youwang, were there when he said it, which is that he has created the New York City Mayor's Office of Faith-Based and Community Partnerships. A lot went into that name. A lot of deeply committed people of all faiths, from every faith tradition that most of you can name and some that you cannot, understand this office's historic significance. So that it is with this historic time, and one in which the Buddhist community as a whole must be engaged with. And indeed, this historic effort is being turned over to and led by, indeed he's here right now, Pastor Gil Monrose, our key city speaker today, and who is the faith advisor and executive director of the New York City Mayor's Office of Faith-Based Community Partnerships. So we have the right person at the right time here today to help guide us so that we can find a way to be more practitioners of compassion, love, kindness, joy, and commitment in the lifeblood of our community. I can say firsthand that Pastor Gil is an amazing person, and I am so glad that we are fortunate to have him offer us his guidance and compassion to our community during what I'm calling these revolutionary times. We also have the distinct pleasure of having Police Officer William Kwok here today, and also his senior ranking officer, which I'm going to have Officer Kwok also introduce the inspector later on. And I'm so grateful for their time here today. And as we begin this journey together, and as we focus on what is important, we can be mindful of the powerful lesson Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh has left us with and that's a sub-theme of no mud, no lotus, which in its simplest terms is that without the challenges that we face, there can be no great liberation. Without challenge, there can be no liberation. That tied to our common humanity is a deep recognition that we have to get rid of the notions, the mud that divides us, so that we can truly see the true love that unites us. This is, in fact, focusing on what is important, as I mentioned before. I truly believe that Buddhists don't fear the mud, we transform it. Like the buffalo of the Midwest, when they see a storm brewing, the herd begins to turn, and the bigger the storm, the quicker the turn, right into the heart of the storm, so the herd can get through the storm the fastest. So Buddhists, like the buffalo, don't run from the storm, they turn to it. So yes, we have much to offer the city and our fellow citizens. Indeed, Nirvana Day, which recently passed on February 15th, I believe we should remember these words as I begin to close. In chapter 16 of the Lotus Sutra, the lifespan of the eternal Tathagata, the Buddha says, I employed skillful means to reveal my nirvana in order to liberate all living beings. In truth, though, I am not extinguished, for I always abide here teaching the Dharma. We must remember and be mindful to forbear the Buddha's strength, peace, and mindfulness are always available to us in every breath we take. For the universe has no other hands than our hands, no other feet than our feet, and no other tongue than our tongue. Let's use them wisely. Let us make ourselves the light of compassion, kindness, and love, and let that light be a hopeful light for others. Let us pray that the great life force in and through the universe, whom we devoutly revere and often call by different names, the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, saints of all faiths, and countless heavenly beings who are omnipresent in the 10 directions, will watch over our peaceful steps here today in whatever way they can, and extend their hands of compassion and guidance and beckon forth peace to the families, the various communities of New York City, and to our entire world. And we also pray humbly that all living beings, wherever they may be throughout the universe, will find peace. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, February 21st, 2022, James Lynch, Buddhist practitioner of Rishokoso Sakai and current president of the Buddhist Council of New York. I have respectfully offered these words of respect. Thank you. Again, with that, we can begin. The first thing that we will have is a prayer offering from Venerable Dhamajothi of the village of Vihara. And he is actually one of the key members of the Buddhist Council. He is the current treasurer of the Buddhist Council. He's a wonderful person, and we're very fortunate to have him offer us the opening prayer. Dhamajothi?
Yes, I'm here, and thank you, JM and everybody. And I'm going to bless all of you by the power of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, by the power of all the gods, deities who protect this world. May you be well, happy, and peace. May you have courage, patience, understanding, and determination to overcome failures in your life. May we all attain ultimate peace. Having that aspiration, I'm going to bless all of you and all living beings to it. And please listen. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijjācarana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattā deva manussanang buddho bhagavati swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditthiko akaliko ehi passiko opanayiko paccattang veditabbo vinyuhiti Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujjupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyāyapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang chattari purisa yugani atta purisa puggala esa bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakhineyo anjali karaniyo anutteram punyakhetang lokassati dukkhapattaca niddukha Bhayapattaca nibbaya sokapattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. Let those who are in misery be free from misery. Let those who are in fear, agony, and insecurity be free from fear, agony, and insecurity. Let those who are in sorrow be free from sorrow, and May all living beings be well, happy, and peace. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Venerable Dhamajothi. Next, we'll have Dharma talk from Reverend Joan Hoeberichts. She is a teacher in the White Plum lineage and abbot of the Heart Circle Sangha. She's also a psychotherapist in private practice, where she specializes in trauma and family therapy. She has published chapters and articles on Zen practice and psychotherapy in various publications. She initiated a project to bring psychological and spiritual relief to the people in Sri Lanka at the tsunami in 2004 by coordinating a training program for local counselors. She partnered with Sarvodaya, a Sri Lankan NGO. She has also been involved in prison ministry and served on the board of Sanar, an agency engaged in services to women who were formerly commercial sex workers. She has been teaching healthy boundaries for Buddhists since the course was initiated in 2017. She recently located from Ridgewood, New Jersey to T-Bourne, California. Reverend, thank you.
Hello, James, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this forum. I really feel very warmly towards the Buddhist Forum. It's been a part of my life in New York for many, many years, and I always enjoy speaking to your group and meeting new members and old members. I love the fact that it's such a hodgepodge of diversity, so many Asian and African Americans and us old white Buddhists as well. So it's a pleasure to be here. As you noted in your introduction, we are living in very challenging times. I always wonder if it feels this way to every generation. But the past 3 years with COVID have had a big impact on all of our lives. Our communities have been strained as we were all isolated, and we lost important supports from not being part of our communities. COVID has left many of us feeling isolated, depressed, and very anxious. Some examples of the mental health strains are mothers and fathers trying to work from home with young children who were not in school and who needed attention and supervision and help with Zoom school, while the parents were trying to maintain their professional work, their professional lives. The parents had very little time to manage all of that and no time for themselves or for their relationship. So as a therapist, I saw a great deal of this strain. The fear of getting COVID and then infecting other family members who were more vulnerable, like grandparents. That fear created family stress and tension, causing arguments, which made living together even more difficult. Speaking as a grandparent, it was terrible not to be able to see my own grandchildren. Single folks have been isolated and cut off from their usual ways of meeting potential new mates, and too much and cut off from friends, leaving them lonely, depressed, and anxious. Couples feeling the strain have struggled with their marriages. Most couples who were working from home had too much enforced togetherness, which frayed the fabric of their relationship. No social life, no eating out, no entertainment other than Netflix, and no travel. And thank heavens for Netflix. Life can get pretty monotonous, and monotony is stressful. Little annoyances become big battlegrounds. And many of us experienced financial strain. Small businesses like restaurants, gyms, movies, bars, and large corporations like real estate for corporate offices all lost money. Many people lost their jobs and their livelihoods. My own family had a medical crisis in the middle of the worst of the pandemic before there were vaccinations. My husband had a seizure in May of 2020. He was diagnosed with brain cancer, which was turned out to be a metastasis of a lung cancer for which he had no symptoms and we didn't know he had. The worst part was I was not allowed to visit him in the hospital during this period because of COVID restrictions. And frankly, that was pretty devastating because the brain cancer left him confused and just couldn't really understand what was happening to him. It was all quite terrible. But he has survived the cancer and is doing well now at 88 years old. So far, so good. We're really happy with the outcome. But we did decide in the middle of the summer of 2021 to move to California. So our son and his family live here, and it was really clear that we needed family. And last summer there was a break in COVID, and it was a good time to move. So we sold our house and picked up and moved to California, which is where I'm speaking to you now. And I must say, I left my heart in New York. All my friends, colleagues, relationships from many, many years are still there. But I'm beginning to make new friends and new connections. So I feel like my life is only just now beginning to calm down. And I feel intensely grateful to my own practice for getting me through those past 2 years. In addition to COVID, there have been other real concerns causing us stress. Climate change has only become more real as we experience the dramatic change in weather patterns. Scientists say there will be more pandemics caused by climate change. In addition, now there is the threat of a war in the Ukraine, which has the potential to become bigger. This hovers over us like a black cloud. And everywhere there is police violence, violence against police, school shootings, terrible things, terrible things. So stress, especially unrelenting stress, causes anger, fear, depression, numbness, difficulty making decisions, difficulty concentrating, causes changes in appetite, changes in energy, changes in our sleeping patterns. It also causes physical symptoms such as headaches, body pain, stomach problems, skin rashes, and a worsening of chronic health problems and mental health problems. It brings on increased use of alcohol, tobacco, and other substances. So our suffering has increased. So what can we do? What do we do? What must we do? Practice, practice, practice. If it doesn't get you to Carnegie Hall, it will at least reduce your suffering. A daily meditation practice is really helpful. I tell people who tell me they can't sit to just sit for 5 minutes. And when that begins to feel easy, then sit for 10 until they can sit for 30 minutes a day, and to try really hard to do it every day. It's also a very good environment for practice of compassion. Of course, every environment is a good environment for practice of compassion. Compassion towards ourselves and compassion towards others. Both metta practice and Tonglen practice are very valuable in these times. You can find these practices on the internet if you're not familiar with them. Metta is M-E-T-T-A, and Tonglen is T-O-N-G-L-E-N. Compassion develops from allowing ourselves to feel the suffering of others. If we close ourselves off to the suffering of others, we actually suffer more. On the other hand, if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and open to all the suffering around us and in the world, our sense of our own suffering is diminished as we think of those who are suffering so much more than ourselves. Closed off to others, we feel our suffering as intolerable, and we experience the stress, fear, anger, depression, anxiety, helplessness, and hopelessness. Opening ourselves up to see and experience the suffering of others, we feel the pain, but we also see that we can help. That feels meaningful. In doing this, we move out of our small self with our small concerns and into the big self that includes all beings in the entire universe. We feel connected to it all. This feels good, and our own suffering is relieved. Many years ago, I was studying with my Zumi Roshi in Los Angeles, and I brought to him some small problem of mine that, I was stewing over. I actually have no recollection of what it was, but it was very upsetting. And he told me to go for a walk and think of all the people in the world that were suffering from a similar problem. I thought, that's an interesting idea. I'll try that. So I went for a walk, and I thought of all the people who were suffering from a similar problem, and then from worse problems, and then much worse problems. And my suffering completely disappeared. It was really an important lesson, how to get out of myself. Social action is another wonderful way to practice compassion. All right, I'll skip right to the end.
Be mindful, Beth.
Well, this is quick. As Buddhists, we have superpowers for getting through them, for getting through suffering, for getting through difficult times. We have sanghas which provide a community of like-minded practitioners which encourage us to stay with practice and who lift our spirits with a sense of connectedness, sangha. We have meditation and chanting practice, which helps clarify and settle our minds, Buddha. And we have the teachings which guide us and point the way, Dharma. We understand that impermanence is a fundamental truth and that we cannot escape it. And we know that the results of our actions are what we leave behind. These superpowers get us through challenging times. They give us the strength and courage to face what we have to face and to reach out to others to help them face their own destiny. May you live in challenging times so that you will be driven to practice for all beings. Thank you for the extra minute.
Thank you so much for your beautiful words. They're more than words because they're a call to action for us to be mindful of ourselves and other people, which is the first step to healing the world. Next, we have Pastor Gil Monrose from City Government. I was thinking about Pastor Gil a lot before I got up here. I just want to read what he sent. I know he didn't send this, but I looked him up. He serves on the board, member of Community Board 17, a community advisory board for the Brooklyn Healthcare Improvement Project, advisory board member, Explorer Charter School, Flatbush YMC advisory board. He has the additional work, lending his voice and expertise to those lending nonprofits, Center for the Study of Spirituality and Professionalism. I think the thing that struck me the most, for me personally, was his dedication to save youth from gun violence here in New York City, and gangs prompted him to become the founding president of the 67th Precinct Clergy Council, the God Squad, which is well known throughout the city for reducing violence and getting guns off our street. I'm going to put this last bit because I didn't know until I saw it, but I'm not surprised. Pastor Gil has traveled extensively through the United States, partnered with people in Caribbean, Nigeria, South Africa, France, Brazil, Moscow, England, and Israel as a guest speaker to youth. This whole faith and partnership that he's now the executive, really director of. My brother was listening one time to Pastor Gil speak. He said, "Who is that guy?" I said, "Why?" He said, "He sounds like a really sincere and honest human being." And one of the things, I'm not looking at any paperwork, I'm going to say this about Pastor Gil. whether he was a Buddhist, whether as he's a Christian pastor, if he was a Muslim, if he was Jewish, he'd be a great leader in those faith traditions because he's a man of God. And we're fortunate, and the city is fortunate, to have him in this time of great trouble. So I can't thank him enough for his kindness and his compassion to me. Also, Venerable Youwang knows him as well, very well. And so I want to thank him on behalf of the Buddhist Council for taking time out to speak to us. Thank you very much, Pastor Good.
Thank you again, and thank all of you. Could you hear me? I had some issues with my mic earlier. We good?
You sound good.
Thank you again. What a wonderful word that was given by you as you open up with I will say it's a proclamation for our city. In this time of great need, great challenge, we find that people are rising to the occasion, regardless of the faith tradition, to be able to support humanity. And I think that trumps all of our religions and our beliefs when it comes to understanding the diversity that we have in our city, and also to the diversity that we have in our own selves. And so thank you so much that, thank God that the media can't portray me as what I'm not. And people who work with me know me exactly for who I am. And so I thank God for that transparency, and I thank God for all of you. So we are living in a very critical moment. I don't know about you, but as a faith leader, I've never lived through a pandemic before. I have never led through a pandemic before. I've never even governed through a pandemic before. This is the very first pandemic in my life. I have been through situations and circumstances, you know, being born in the US Virgin Islands as an American on an island, and then moving to the mainland, which is America, by parents who were immigrants to this country, to be able to give us what we call the American dream. The mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, always say that America is the only nation that the name is attached to the dream. There is only an American dream. There's not a Russian dream. There's not a Polish dream. There's only the American dream. And to be able to see how people from diverse backgrounds can work together for the common good, you don't come to this place overnight. You don't come to support the Buddhist community overnight by just being in your shell as a Christian. It takes real commitment to a city that is challenged, knowing that the way that we get out of all the difficulties that we have must come through the faith community. Every time in American experience, when we see that there's natural disasters, everyone turns to God, whatever form of God that you look at. They turn to a higher being. And so we can't have a city that is soulless. We must have a city that responds to the soul. You know, to save young people, it is more than just being in need for education, reforming the criminal justice system, but there also needs to be an idea of the soul of the human being, the holistic approach, the spirit, if you will. And I think that as you see the hate crimes that are happening to the Asian American, as you see the gun violence that has been happening in our communities, as you see the rise of anti-Semitism, you know, as you see all of the different antis and the different violence that we have in our city, one of the response that we are going to explore in this city is the aspect of faith. And what is the moral imperative of seeing someone who is the other, who is gunned down, knifed down, who is spat upon because of the differences? The faith community has a great role to play within this new fight that we face. This is very difficult times for all of us, not just through legislations, but really, again, through heart work, if you will, about the heart, the essence and the being of mankind, that when you get up in the morning, do you decide, how am I going to live today? Am I going to be able to be someone who's going to extend my hand to someone that is less fortunate than myself? How am I going to live according to the sages of the Buddhist tradition for love and commitment? How do I turn mud into something that is so clear that we all can see? I mean, if I can give a reference to mud, I know that in my tradition, Jesus, when he saw a man who was blind, he spat in the mud and he made clay and he made it a way that he put it on the eyes, and this individual was made to see. So we know that sometimes in terms of the lowest form that we have in our community, or the lowest level of society, the people who are down there by the soil or down by the mud, how do we stoop that low to have a fire blazing? Sometimes those of you who are in the wilderness, you have to bend down and you have to blow gently the fire. You have to move from an upward position and go down to a kneeling position to get right under the fire to fan the flame, to allow this flame to come to a higher place. And I think that's what we're doing now. We have to fan the flame of the faith community in New York City. We have been a sleeping giant. We want to tap into all of your resources. We want to be able to elevate you. Every single faith tradition will have total access to our government, to our mayor. There is not one, whether gender or lifestyle or faith traditions, or whether you're Buddhist or not, is going to be barred from our city. This city needs the faith community more than ever before. And I think that all of you on a Monday, on President's Day, that this is not a day off for you, it's a day on. And we can't take any days off in the faith community. So we are really excited about the partnership that Reverend James Lynch and those of you who are coming to the challenge and bringing your whole self, your whole soul to this fight. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be an uphill battle. Why? Because we have been facing with spiritual decline for such a long time in America. I'm not going to debate whether or not I think that America is a Christian nation, but I do know for sure that we do say that in God we trust in a lot of things that we have, in our money, in our courts. So there, to me, has been some sense of a higher being, that we cannot do this on our own. We will not be able to police our way out of all the troubles that we see. You can put a police in every car, in every subway station. It is more than that. And I think that when you really have a holistic approach to what we're seeing in our community, you're going to get a better response. And so I am grateful to lead this new office. I am a partner with you. And I trust and pray that you'll partner with us too as well. And we're here to support your communities, the needs that you have, but also we want to thank you for your commitment to the city, to make the city a place where it's more than just dollars and cents and policies and all those niceties and politics, but a place where people can come and be in tune with their spirit. So thank you so much for having me today. And I'm really, truly blessed to be here this day. Thank you again.
Thank you, Pastor Gill. If people have a question, can you type it to me so that then I can ask Pastor Gill maybe a few questions? So before we move on, one question I had for you, I was thinking based upon the Buddhist Council had sponsored when there was a spat of anti-Asian violence that was taking over the city. We sponsored, along with others. We got other faith traditions involved, from the New York Board of Rabbis and the Faith Council of New York, many, many Christian groups in Brooklyn, the idea of creating a campaign called the Pilgrimage and Love Walk, which we did. And we successfully did that despite the cold conditions. And everybody I thought it was one of the better gatherings that I've been to. I was thinking, would you be thinking that would be possible for the faith traditions around the city to create a new campaign of, say, a single walk that the city would be willing to sponsor, that we begin to invigorate our communities with our compassion, our love, our kindness, wherever we go. And they're sort of like citadels of hope, wherever they may be, maybe the synagogue or the mosque or the Buddhist temple or meditation hall. Would that be something that the city would be interested in?
Yeah, I can tell you definitely. Our office is definitely going to be engaging in those type of works. But because, we're coordinators, right? We don't necessarily have to be the lead in all of these things. We want to highlight and let you know that you have the right, the freedom, and the ability in this city, under this new mayor, to allow your light to shine, allow your faith to come to the forefront. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's okay. We are open. We are bold. We are audacious about that. The mayor speaks about his faith openly. And he used the word God. you know, in his speech. So he's open, he's ready. And I think that that is the things that we want to do together, is that what we have come to realize in the city is that we have proven that we can survive without each other all these years. But what we have not proven is, can we build together? And that is the question that I would like to also answer with all of you.
I love that quote. I can't get it right. I keep trying to say what you say, but I can't get the quote right that you say, because I think it's fantastic. How can we build together? One of the questions that I also had is, what concrete steps can we take so that we can be supportive and in harmony with the city, other faith traditions, and be a force of compassion and kindness, so we're not just sitting on the sideline?
Yeah, and so one of the things that I've seen and I've realized, you know, working for the past 8 years at Borough Hall, and even before those years, I did a lot of work around hate crime, gender-based violence, with We All Brooklyn, anti-Semitism work, and then, of course, I move into a more deep dive into gun violence. We operate only where we think that our people are hurting. And so for the faith traditions, we need to look at it holistically, that I don't want to just be a faith leader who was from the Caribbean, who live in Flatbush, who is a Christian, to be able to take on the needs that 95% of the people who were shot and killed in New York City, they're Black, they're brown, they're male. What we would want to see is that even in the attack of an Asian American or a Jewish person or a Muslim or Sikh, whatever you can place those individuals, our response must be at the same level for all humanity. And I think that what I would want to see, even from in the Buddhist tradition too as well, is speaking to those issues that maybe don't really affect your congregation or your temple or those who you work with directly, but it affects humanity. And I think that if we can make that connection and that cross-pollination, when I can take, yesterday I was at the Lunar New Year in Chinatown for the first time. I'm really driving through Chinatown, looking at the stores, looking at the people, and I've been living in New York City for 20 years now. But for the first time doing a deep dive, I went to school close to Chinatown, walked there every single day, but never really looking at the underlying factors that there are people who are homeless in the Chinese community, in the Asian community. So now when we start to take a deep dive, we find that we can solve problems across the board. We can't wait till violence come to a neighborhood, and then that neighborhood or that community start to say, well, what are we going to be doing with the violence? Whereas we have been dealing with the violence for the past years in the Black and brown communities in New York City. So I would suggest to all of us as faith leaders that we have to go beyond the scope of just the people that we serve and look at it in a holistic standpoint, that we have to serve the people of New York City and therefore start to expand our ministry beyond where we are.
Thank you. I have one more quick question if no one else has. I'm going to have a quick question. It's a little tougher question because our community has many various opinions, obviously. We're not all of one mind. But one of the key components, which I've spoken out about, the closing of Rikers. I've been to rallies on behalf of the Buddhist Council of New York. But there's been a lot of consternation, a lot of concern with the rebuilding of a vertical prison in Chinatown. And many of the Asian community feel that their voices are not being heard. How can we do so that we can move forward so that people hear their voices are being heard and it's being taken into the context of the concerns of our community while recognizing the needs of the city as a whole, but not to try to, and you mentioned this before in one of the meetings I was in with, the mayor doesn't want to put the burden on the Asian community in Chinatown. We're mindful of that. So how can we move this positively forward for all New Yorkers?
Yeah, and I am getting up to speed too as well with a lot of issues. I have been borough-wide, borough-based for the past, umpteen years, and in my service, serving as the borough president in the Brooklyn office. So closing Rikers Island, of course, I've always led the charge. We did the first viewing of Closing Rikers Island, the film in Brooklyn with the borough president. And so we have always been on the front end of that type of work. And I was actually shocked to see the new scope of the Manhattan new borough-based jail. So it was my first yesterday actually hearing from some of the people who were on the ground about those issues. It had been my first, so I've been in New York for all these years, and I want to tell you that I did not know all of the nuances that was happening within that particular area. So now that I know, what I would say is that the faith voice and the faith community always have a way to push these things up. And I think that that should be one thing on your agenda, your big item, ticket item that we would talk to with the mayor. But I was really delighted to be able to learn about this yesterday, being, 5 borough and now trying to capture and catch up to all of the different nuances in our city. I think that it has been concerning for a lot of individuals. And if the faith community themselves who are on this call believe that it's a situation that the mayor needs to hear firsthand from, I'm willing to facilitate those type of meetings for sure.
Thank you so much. I know others are going to speak to that later on. They told me about it ahead of time, but I want to thank you so much for your time. We're going to move on to the next.
So much again.
Thank you, Pastor Gill. I mean, and he means what he says. So he's not just one of those people who say it. I'm with some other politicians who say it and they'll say it and you never see them and they'll get 7 years later, so trust me. He's a person of his word. So I really appreciate that. Next, we have Officer William Kwok, who, I have his bio here in front of me and I'm going to read it. But he's a lot more than this bio to us in the Buddhist community. He's the Community Affairs Bureau, Asian Community Liaison. He's part of the Immigrant Outreach Unit, falling under the Community Outreach Division. He spent the last 3 years interacting and communicating with the Asian community to provide them with information, assistance, and connections. As part of his duties, he frequently participates in community events, provides information sessions, and regularly presents safety information to the immigrant communities. Police Officer Kwok is here to assist the Asian community and will always be available to continue to bridge the gap and dispel misconceptions about the immigrant community and the NYPD. I would like to say that Officer Kwok was also one of the key officers that made sure that we were safe during our pilgrimage and love walk along. I see Pastor, Rabbi Joe Potasnik, who's also here. He was from the New York Board of Rabbis. He was also instrumental in that effort. And I want to say that Officer Kwok consistently calls me behind the scenes, consistently calls me all the time behind the scenes to offer his assistance to make sure that the Asian community and the community in general can feel safe and secure. And he wants us to know that the police office and the police department is there to be a supportive agency as well. He's going to later on present Inspector Taylor. But first, Officer William Kwok, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, James. You give me a lot of credit, and I appreciate it. It's my pleasure, really, to assist in any of these communities, especially with the Buddhist Council, because you guys have been very supportive of us as well, myself included. So, it's reciprocated, and I thank you very much for having us here today. I'm going to give a brief bio for Inspector Taylor before we start, and then I'm going to bring him in. He is very, very happy to speak with everyone. So let me just take a moment to introduce him. Inspector Taylor is the commanding officer of the Community Outreach Division. He leads this division in its goal to continually bring the residents of New York City closer to the NYPD. As the commanding officer, he ensures that his teams are available to all residents through their best and their worst times. His teams provide support at community events and outreach during tough times that can strike the diverse communities of New York City. His goal as the commanding officer of the Community Outreach Division is to close the space that occurs in the sometimes tenuous relationship between the public and the NYPD. He continues to be a force for this by both constantly being on the streets, walking around, talking to communities, as well as being in the digital ether, communicating, assisting, and teaching. When he isn't at a community event, which many times he is, he's busy attending Zoom meetings such as this one, to assure the public that he is here to listen and help wherever he can. I believe he is actually at a community event now as well, so he's going to step in and have a brief conversation with us. Inspector Taylor?
Thank you. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Police Officer Kwok. Incredible introduction, incredible program. President James Lynch, thank you for the way you started this meeting. First time in quite a while where I had some time to actually to collect my thoughts as well in a calm setting. And thank you for leading that. Police Officer Kwok, you do a great job day in and day out. A leader is really just as good as the people behind him. And with Police Officer Kwok at the forefront, he does his job not because he has to, it's really because he wants to. He enjoys it, he loves it. He is community affairs. And I'm very lucky to have him part of my team. And I know the community is very lucky to have him in the position that he's in. Pastor Gil Monrose, a true leader, someone who I work with also day in and day out. We had a serious situation going on in Brooklyn just last week, very late at night, and Pastor Gil Monrose came down personally right to the scenes there at the forefront to keep peace, to keep calm. And Rabbi Joe Potasnik, what do we say about Rabbi Potasnik? Always there with a good joke. He's somebody who I admire for a long time, a mentor of mine, a role model, and somebody who I know truly brings people together. With James Lynch here, the president, with Pastor Monrose, with Rabbi Potasnik, Police Officer Kwok. I also see a lot of other friends, Rachel Lamar, and just a great team here. Bishop Orlando Freelander. I got to tell you, you have the right people here, and it shows. You know, in the police department, we can only do so much. We need the community's help, and if we didn't need the community's help, we wouldn't have the numbers of 800-577 tips to report a crime or report suspicious activity. We wouldn't have our counterterrorism hotline of 888 NYC safe if someone sees suspicious activity. We rely on the community to help us keep our fellow New Yorkers safe. As Pastor Monrose said, a lot of hate, a lot of rising hate, which is why the mayor created the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, which Pastor Monrose leads so well. We needed it. We need every community to come together to be a partner. And that's what's going on right here. You know, we have Rabbi Joseph Potasnik. How President Lynch, you truly include everyone to brainstorm, to come together, to exchange ideas, and to make our city the best possible it can be. I think right now we have an opportunity that we haven't had, and it's a real mayor that I know, Pastor Monrose, speak to the mayor every day, and I know with the with the tone of the city from before, a lot of tough times, but now going forward, we see the light. We truly see a friend. We truly see someone who's listening. We truly see someone who is here to serve the people for the greater good, for the right reasons. And I just wanted to echo the sentiment of the prior speakers and say that I'm very fortunate and very appreciative of the position that I hold, to be a part of the team that works together to collaborate, to help, to serve. And I look forward to continuing the great relationship. Thank you everyone again, of course, for joining. Thank you, President James Lynch, for the opportunity, for the invitation, for myself, for Police Officer Kwok, for the Community Affairs Bureau to be here and present. It truly means so much to us to be part of this incredible, incredible team of leaders. Thank you so much. And Police Officer Kwok, keep up the great work, and your responsiveness is appreciated and felt by myself, by the community. So please keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector. I want to take a moment today just to briefly go over, I know that the conversation piece, the head of this forum was to speak on, what can we do to assist in bringing some of this crime down and assisting in some of the hate crimes that are occurring. And the one thing that I keep coming back to during all my presentations, during all my conversations I have with the community, boils back to one thing, which is to let us know when something is going on. And when I say us, I mean the NYPD. A lot of times I understand there are a lot of communities out there that still aren't entirely comfortable with reporting crime to the police, and we really need to change that mentality. And I need the help of all the leaders that are here, because I know you speak to many different residents of New York City and from other places. And one of the key things is that if with your encouragement, as well as my information that I'm trying to put out there, the ability to report crimes has never been easier. I stress this at every presentation. The NYPD doesn't ask about immigration status. If you're from a community, if you're in a community, you're not sure, you're concerned, whether or not your immigration status is going to affect your, you calling the police. Well, we don't ask. We never ask. We never will. It's part of all of the city agencies. They don't ask about your immigration status or your background. In addition to that, the other big thing that I see very frequently is a language concern. The inability to speak English. There's a concern that, oh, if I can't speak English, I don't want to report a crime because then they won't understand me and I can't do anything with that. Well, we have a language line, which you can request anytime you call 911. So those two things out of the way, I want to make sure that that's known. We don't ask about immigration status. We do have language lines that are there to assist. But why is it that we're trying to push that? Well, as the inspector put it best, we need your help. As good as we aren't on every corner. And as the pastor mentioned as well, just because we're on every corner doesn't necessarily resolve the issue. We're not able to hit everything that we want to. That's where the community comes into play. That's where all the leaders that are here come into play. When you are able to report a crime, if you see something, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a crime, it could be a situation that is presently occurring that has the potential to become a crime. And we really, really want you to feel safe. And we really want you to feel safe calling us when you see something that doesn't feel safe. If you see an individual behaving erratically on the same block as you see one in front of your temple, you see one in front of your home where someone is behaving erratically, you don't have to wait until it becomes a crime to let us know that something is going on. I can't stress that enough. So many crimes that we have seen now, an individual has been walked past and we see it on camera. This person has been behaving erratically. People have walked past them a number of times and just kind of put it on the side. They put it in the back of their minds and they said, you know what? I don't need to report this. This is nothing. Nothing's happening. And then unfortunately, we see a little bit later on that this individual decides to lash out to on another person. So, that early reporting, that early detection, if you would, to let us know, hey, we can send officers down there and investigate. And we're not talking about anything crazy. We don't necessarily have to go down there and it doesn't have to end in an arrest. Sometimes all we're doing down there is talking to this individual. This individual lets us know, hey, I haven't been taking my medication for a few days. I need help. And now we can get an ambulance down there and that ambulance can bring him to the hospital where he can receive the help that he needs before it becomes a violent sort of situation or a situation that ends in tragedy. That is our goal, to avoid that. So, we really stress that you don't have to feel like you have to wait until something has happened to let the NYPD know. We at the NYPD have always placed the safety of New York City residents above all, and we will continue to do so. As you've already heard for years and years on end, and we're going to reiterate it right now as well, you see something, say something. You never know the lives that you will affect or save potentially with your actions of letting us know. And we have changed a lot of our policies to ensure that when you call us, our ability to react to that situation doesn't necessarily have to end in arrests or in any sort of action that could be potentially harmful to the person who is potentially going to commit a crime. We want to stop it before it gets to that point, because we're going to save much more than just the victim. We're also going to save this person who was thinking about or potentially would become a perpetrator of a crime, because we've stopped them from getting to that point and getting the help that they may need. I'm going to turn this back to James in a moment, but I also want to reiterate what the inspector said. James, we've been working together for a very, very long time, and I can't thank you enough for regularly staying in touch with me as well. It's a two-way street. I do reach out to you, but you reach out to me, and I hope we can continue that. And thank you so much again for inviting both me and my inspector.
Thank you both, Inspector Richie Taylor. It's great to meet you. And of course, Officer Kwok, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you both. There's so much, when I say, I have an unusual position. I think we call it in my tradition, the Buddhist arrangement. And the Buddhist arrangement is I'm an African-American here in New York City, descendant of slaves, Father was a former police officer. And, a lot of what's happening to the Asian community is not being said because people won't report it for a host of reasons. They themselves don't want to be looked at as being racialist in their approach sometimes. So we have an opportunity, no mud, no lotus, to bridge that gap, to bring compassion and love to everybody. But it's up to us and it's in our hands. So I really appreciate you coming today, you and Inspector Taylor. I really do. Thank you very much. All right. And the next person that we have up is Reverend Dr. T.K. Nakagaki. He goes by T.K., but I always call him Venerable, even though he's a Reverend. He's one of the stalwarts in the New York City community, as well as the world community. He's a Buddhist priest ordained in the 750-year-old Joroshishu tradition of Japanese Buddhism. He's a president and founder of Heiwa Peace and Reconciliation Foundation of New York, which was formed in 2018. He's an executive officer and former president of the Buddhist Council of New York. He's currently president emeritus. He's a Hiroshima Peace Ambassador and a Nagasaki Peace Correspondent, an honorable board member of the Interfaith Center of New York, and a New York City Police Department clergy liaison. He was very much also instrumental in doing this project today. So Reverend Nakagaki, thank you so much. Remove me, so it's just you. he's doing this stuff behind the scenes with this, so that's why.
Yeah, so remove the spot from you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today, and here are my thoughts. So on behalf of the Buddhist Council of New York, since I'm part of here for a long time, actually, I guess I've been here with the Buddhist Council for about over 25 years since that way. I served the presidency and so forth. And so this is one of the gathering that you are here is the Buddhist forum, but we try to bring the leadership together because sometimes leaders are always busy for the temple, but then this event is, for me, it's very important for all the leaders to be aware of what's happening in the city and people and other temples, and we can have a communication each other, and that's a very important purpose of this too. So before I go to any further, I just wanted to first of all express, well, maybe I should express gratitude to James first. I guess he's been very, very so grateful that he is very, very, very busy, but you try to bring the important things for the Buddhist community. So I'm very grateful for your working on this and connected to the city. And we have this tradition started for the Buddhist Forum, especially because the Buddhist voices are always kind of almost voiceless voices. But then I want to make sure that the city can hear, the people who represent the city can hear us also. And of course, we practice meditation, so we tend to be very quiet, I guess. But then this theme that you pick up today is compassion, kindness, and community involvement, which is something that Buddhists, we need to do, I guess, as a responsible citizens or the faith group that we are living in this city. And then as just doing without saying is virtue.
Nakagaki, I'm sorry to interrupt. When you have your paper, you're moving it over the microphone, so you stop. We can't hear what you're saying. So just warning you. Okay.
Sorry. Well, thank you.
So I just want to make sure we can hear what you're saying. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, but you don't see my paper, do you?
No. But you can hear it, so I want you to be able to hear you clearly. That's all.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. And so, well, thank you, Pastor Gil. So it was always a wonderful presentation, and and also Inspector Taylor to join us, and also Kwok. Sorry, pronouncing your name wrong, but yeah, thank you for joining and then sharing the important information with us. And this time I was going to say a little something, but then since I was going to focus a little bit different things, but for the engagement and important to be a kindness and then the compassion and so forth. But yet something, of course, already Pastor Gil already participated in the Chinatown, but maybe I don't have to say. But since that was a little kind of Chinese communities themselves, especially in a Chinatown, Chinese community has been very, facing a lot of difficult times. The jail, we heard the news about the Likers, they need to do something and they have to move and all those things, but they never really talk about the where to move, and then something that seems like a little bit like a hidden somewhere. And where does the jail is going to move? And even the jail itself is 30 stories, the very big jail in a Chinatown, people living. And so I feel very unfair for that particular decision itself. First of all, because we did have experience of 9/11, and then the south side of the Manhattan itself should be no place to the burden again. The people, a lot of people live. The Chinatown is not like a rich community. There are many other places in the Manhattan they should be taken. This kind of things. For instance, I was in my temple. I used to be at the New York Buddhist Church, which was in Upper West Side. They have more space and everything. Is people have a little more the better life. And Columbia University, they have a lot of intelligence there too. So why not to consider that, even that area? I mean, you don't want to bring the jail to the community or something, but then the same as any community. But then they have a wonderful professors and who has the knowledge and all those things. They should be used those things for the helping people, because jail problem is a universal problem in especially like United States. So maybe bring all the brain or the practice could be help. So even I would consider that area is a very important. And then what they create. Well, of course, I shouldn't say too much about, but then the political statement type of things. But I'm happen to be, the Hiroshima peace ambassador, Nagasaki peace correspondent, but of course, the nuclear weapon was actually created there. They bring all the knowledge and everything to create, such mess. And still, nuclear weapons is something to be responsible too. But that's a different part of the story. But yet, something the faith community should also think about. Environmentally, very, very bad too. And so, why don't we start a little bit more? Changing the attitude and then try to bring peace to the other community. And then so for me, that's something that Colombia can do too. But anyhow, the Chinatown itself, I was talking with some of the Chinese monk also in a Chinatown, like a Minyu. He couldn't make it today, but yet it's hard for them to voicing, because it's English is not their language. And so they are really concerned, but yet it's hard to convey unless people who can speak English or who can convey those messages to the city. That's very difficult. And there's so many Chinese people who don't speak English well, and so it's those things are really something that I feel like I should represent to tell you, especially the officers, and also maybe Chinese Buddhist community also should get together, try to bring those messages to them, to the cities and all the other parts. So that's for me is very, very important. And one thing that it's like they feel like a little betrayed even by the Eric Adams because of the he says something like, James already mentioned, try to do something for the Chinese or minority group, but then instead of just following the Brazil's part of the plan, and then the pushing to the way is really not good. And so that's kind of upsetting for me too. So I thought it would be, more, he's from minority part, so we wanted to be more care for the minority group, especially the voiceless minority groups and invisible minority group like Asians. And then there's so many hate crime and all those things are also part of it too. So anyway, so that was what I would like to mention today. But then the compassion should have a wisdom, of course. Compassion is always work with a suffering part, and then so. But you never know how by really embrace the difficulties, and then it is a difficult situation, for the Chinatown. And so I think I really like to stress today to emphasize the importance of helping and then the coping together and really understand what's the best for the likers, where to go. I know that like itself has a problem, but not as far as the where to go. Yeah, we really need to be more attention. So that was I changed totally my talk for today, but anyway, and then I think we need to have a compassionate action with the wisdom. Compassion for me is not just to be kind, but compassion for me is the wisdom in motion. So wisdom in motion is the one that we always need to keep in our mind. So we meditate, but yet we just move accordingly. And so that's the part that I'd like to share for today. And thank you again for everyone. A lot of people are able to come. I also call a lot of Chinese people to join us too today. So more Chinese people here today with us too. So maybe we have a chance to discuss later on. We're like maybe I don't know what do you call it. Divide in a group or something, hopefully. So I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts for today. And so I thank you so much. And I do lastly show what I'm doing as this is a totally different things, but it's something that I wanted to just show as a background. So this is a background that I have now. So this is another background that many times I use. These are all good symbols, by the way. It's not the hate symbols. It's the symbol for peace. So for the Asian people especially. So if you see this, what they react. That's another last short version of my talk. That's it. So, okay. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Nakagaki. Thank you for those powerful words. I think there were two key points that we got. Even at the last one, the whole idea is that sometimes there's a misunderstanding about some of the sacred symbols. In this particular case, there was a swastika, which you did not say, but that's what the last thing was. I think that many in the Buddhist community, we're aware and we're very cognizant of that, of this sacredness. And the other part that you hit was really important. Just want to say again about the prison, which is, I think was such a good point that we have Pastor Gill here. So I thank you for bringing those two things up. It was right on point. Next we have up Venerable Youwang of the International Buddhist Progress Society, Buddhist Light International Association. Venerable Youwang, I always like her when she comes up because she always talks about Buddhism in humanistic terms, which is always something that I think is very, very important, especially if we're going to be out in the world today. Many times people have, I would say, ideas about Buddhism being somewhere else. The humanistic Buddhism that Venerable Youwang talks about is very practical and in the here and now. She's the deputy abbess of the IBS Temple in New York, director of the UN Affairs of the Buddhist Light International Association. She's also on International Non-Governmental Organization of Monastics and Lay People and headquartered in Los Angeles. She is a phenomenal leader in the New York area, and we're so grateful that she's involved. Thank you so much, Venerable Youwang.
Okay. Thank you, James. And then it is my honor over here. And then I know I'm also kind of a little bit new in this this kind of forum, and I want to share something with you. It's about my my community. So I prepared a little bit. There's a little slides. I know. Can you see my screen? Okay. This is not my first time to join the forum, but this is my first time presenting in online. And then I'm glad and Officer Kwok still here, and then Pastor Gill, and then we met a couple times, and also some new friends, old friends over here. And I just want to introduce a little bit. I represent, it's not just the Buddhist order, and with the International Buddhist Progress Society, we initially is IBPS. But I'm also represents Buddhist Light International Association. BOIA is and also associate with the UN's is non-government organization. It's been 30 years, and then we have since we founded in Los Angeles. That's our headquarters, and then we've been hear a lot about what this in the New York City, and then this the theme this year, what we can do, and then involvement, and then to the city over here. And BLIA is seen like worldwide, and then we have a lot of over 200 chapters in the world. And so we're doing a lot of, we involve into in locally and practicing our master's Humanics Buddhism. The Humanics Buddhism, it's Buddhism, but it's just like what we say, the loving kindness and compassion, but we put it in action, as emotion and actions. So I just want to briefly and then let everybody know about what Buddhist and what Buddhist organization and each Buddhist, what we can do in for the environment, the community we are. So like this is the last year when Haiti, the earthquake, and then we've been calling our community. We just spent a week, and then we have a lot of the support relief, and then we donated to throughout the Queen. So, and you can see those people wear the uniform. That's our BLIA members, and then we each chapters we have our the system, the management system too. We have the president, secretary, vice president, and then board members. And then there's the winter, during the winter time, we not just, our locally, and then it's also whenever, anywhere we needs the, support, and we will do what we can do. As we just thought, even though we don't know each other, but we still can do, this is because there's humankind's, compassion that what we can do. This is only, even though it's a short time, it's only in 1 week, and then we collected 1,000 winter clothes, and then donated to the local the centers, Muslim center, and then to send it to the Afghan refugees what they need. And in BLIA and IBPS, we have our youth programs, and so we have close to 200 scouts. Cub Scout, Boy Scout, Junior Girl Scouts, Senior Girl Scouts. So every year, all the scouts is also doing a lot of community service, which we supported. And every year they would do the winter clothes drive, toy drive, and then food drives, and then contribute back to our community, whatever who needs. And then also during the pandemic, and then for the past 2 years, and then we did a lot of online forums, and then including our scouts, Girl Scouts Silver Award, their projects. We're talking about the mental health, and then how to deal with anxieties, and then also in the physical parts. Also, we supported the organ donations, and we cooperate with the Columbia Medical Center to do a lot of the surveys, and then seminars. And the near close is that we work with the government office, and then to support help sponsor the booster shots in our local Flushing town hall a couple times. And the Bronx fires, and then we are also doing the same, the food and the clothes, and then we send it to the 109 precinct, and work with our community officer, Eris Huang, and just anything in the community we can do. In our Buddhist community, we also not just within our Buddhist community, we also work with a lot of interfaith too, because the faith is all the humankind we need, and then that's our inner power, and it can support not just each other, it's the whole humankind. So me personally, and then I was the alumni from the 2018. And then now my current, my colleague in Ven Chu, and then she's in the program. So we involve into, we do in a different form to involve into our the city. And I just got graduated last year from the Citizen Police Academy. It's a very good experience, and still encourage our congregations, peoples, including my colleagues, and then can join that. So this is how I'm talking about the involvement into our the world, and also we have environmental cares. And it's not in, and so this is an action is worldwide, and what BLIA did. And then everybody knows during the pandemic, a lot of that economy and then strikes a lot of the small restaurants, especially vegetarian restaurants. So this is they are doing in an Asian country, and then the people will when they will do like a veggie run, and then run 10 kilograms, and then they will donate like a meal, and then to whatever who needs. So we do veggie runs, and then in all over the world, and then this is our project. And then also we informed this veggie aid plan aid, and everyone can pledge, you can eat more veggies and the less meat, and then you can save. This is the action for to slow down the climate change. And then that can brings more food, and then balance our environments, and then protection, and then come back to climate change. So this is all we do it for the whole worldwide. And we put everything into the data, and then we can see what we can do. Once every time you have the one vegetarian meal, so which we can, I think this will be a good project. When our mayor's still the Brooklyn VP, and then during the pandemic, and then I introduced this project to him, he's very interested in that. And so this is I would like to just a short video, and then this is from Australia, what we can do, what they did during the pandemic. And then because from our founder, that the Buddhism is not just, a lot of people have the typical image. We only can very serious and then chanting or doing things, but the music and the arts, and also can presents the wisdom of the Buddhism. So I just want to take a couple minutes, and then do a couple minutes.
Oh, great compassionate Buddha, we pray for wisdom over the world. We pray for all of our leaders to make the right choice. Oh, great compassionate Buddha, may the compassion you've taught us shine through, and may we all be the bearers of your noble truth. May we find peace in the silence, hope in the midst of it all. May we be the light. May we give joy and convenience, confidence to one and all through the night. May we do good, speak good, think good, and may we be the light. May we respect and protect all of life. Oh, be the light. We pray for healing for all of mankind. May we find peace in the silence, hope in the midst of it all. May we be the light. May we give joy and convenience, confidence to one and all through the night. May we do good, speak good, think good, and may we be the light. Do good, speak good, think good, so that we'll be the light. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. Be the light. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. Be the light. Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. Be the light. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. Be the light.
So this songs just conclude my presentation, and then as James just mentioned about, I always when talking about the Buddha and IBPS, we propagating and promoting this humanics Buddhism. That is just very simple. The 3 acts of goodnesses: speak good, think good, and do good. And then also we give the 4 givings, and then always giving other people the joy, the hope, and then the convenience and confidence. And we bring this all involved into our community and then the mankind. And then I think this is which is totally present practicing and what the Buddha told us, the wisdoms. And it's not just the knowledge from the books, it is from within the action, within our humankinds, and then loving kindness and compassion, and then with the heart. So that's my presentation, and introduce the Buddha and IBPS to our community. And then I'm glad that Pastor Gil's over here still, and Officer Kwok, and then that can, we just hope, we will do whatever we can do to the city, and then to the mankind too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ven Youwang. A wonderful presentation, right? Think good, speak good, do good. Humanistic Buddhism in action, the power to change the world. Really appreciate you. And the next person that we have is a great friend of the Buddhist Council of New York. She's a stalwart and always is pushing the envelope to move the Buddhist Council further and moving the Buddhist community forward. She's a friend, but she's actually a wonderful Dharma teacher for myself about Native traditions across the board. So I'm always pleasure to have her. Reverend Tenku has a Master's in Divinity, is also a board-certified chaplain, is a Soto Zen Buddhist priest, currently serving as the head priest of Beacon Zen Temple. Reverend Ruff's novice training took place in Zen monasteries in both Japan and North America, giving her a unique perspective on how Buddhism is practiced in different cultures. Reverend Ruff is the former president of the Soto Zen Buddhist Association, holds a Master's of Divinity degree from Maitrapa College, and is a board-certified chaplain, as I said before. She also has strong interest in ethics, inter-Buddhist, interfaith dialogue, and ways people can support each other and grow through challenges in life. Reverend Tenku, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, James. The other day, when we were speaking and talking about our response as Buddhists to the recent condition of trauma caused by the pandemic, James asked me to speak a little bit about what I was talking about then. So I want to do that. We just saw such a beautiful example of the ways that we can respond in very, hands on the ground, boots on the ground, pragmatic ways to help people. What I also want to offer is the ways that we can uniquely respond as Buddhists to the suffering caused by this, not just the pandemic, but we really saw a heightened level of suffering before the pandemic started. So, and I want to draw upon some of my work as a chaplain in the hospital through the pandemic and what we were seeing. So when soon after the pandemic started, I decided to return to work in the hospital as a chaplain in order to meet that challenge. and to bring everything that I had to that challenge. And I feel like it really offered me a great teaching for how to meet this moment as well. But when I first got there, you know, the pandemic had already been going on for a while, and at least a few months. And my impulse was to want to do something. Look at all this suffering around, you know, not just the people who were dying, but especially the staff, our medical system, our healthcare workers. And I felt so frustrated that we couldn't do something to help them. And soon thereafter, I noticed, you know, I asked around, I talked to the psychiatry team, I talked to different people, and I noticed just how many resources were being sort of thrown at the healthcare staff and not really sticking. They had all kinds of programs. They had mental health listening sessions. They had special days. They set up this really big tent in the hospital parking lot for people to be able to come together. And what became apparent very quickly is that wasn't where people were. We can't fix this. When I talked to one of the psychiatrists about it, I said, you know, we need some sort of a debriefing or trauma response. And what she said was, you know, you can't treat trauma while people are in the middle of it. And we are all, especially here in New York, still in the middle of it. And not just this pandemic, but my work, especially working in Manhattan in the hospital, taught me how many of us come from trauma before we even got here to New York. So many patients, you know, the Hungarian woman who smuggled her child out of the country in the trunk of her car, and the people from Iraq who came here at great cost to their family. These are people that I actually met. So in this, you know, trauma within trauma, how can we best respond? And what we can do is attend. That's it. Just to be present, which is actually pretty hard. You know, if we think of it more as this is the time to stir in the compost, to dig in the earth, to turn over, you know, all the stinkiness that we've had to deal with, to turn it in so that it can become fertilizer. It's not the time to harvest the vegetables. It's not the time to appreciate the flowers. It's a time of real investing in each other. So this is what I wanted to speak to. Not so much fixing, but really reaching out to each other in community, really countering our tendencies to be self-protective and look to our neighbors, all of whom are having a hard time. And I think if we can demonstrate this as Buddhists, as a Buddhist community, to our neighbors and to the rest of the city and to the world around us, then we can really show people what it actually looks like to be present to this moment, even as this moment continues to be incredibly difficult, to be very challenging, to show up with love and compassion, to show up in a way that's real and not pasted on, to bring ourselves and our heart, not just throwing resources and hoping that something sticks, but to attend, to listen, maybe even just to sit with somebody in silence for just a few minutes. These are what I want for us to be able to offer. We can throw all the money in the world at a problem, and there is no way to fix it. But if we just attend with our own hearts for very brief amounts of time, genuinely and wholeheartedly, then no fixing is necessary. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Reverend Tenku. Appreciate your kind words and guidance. Next, we have Next, we have Reverend Daiken Nelson. Daiken began Zen practice 34 years ago in Iowa, where he was born. Since that time, he has practiced with several teachers within the White Plum Zen lineage. In October 2013, Daiken received Shiho, Dharma transmission and authorization to teach from Roshi Francisco Paco Genkochi, a successor to Roshi Bernie Glassman, who a lot of us know and got a lot of our information from and guidance from in the past. In November 2021, Daiken received Inca from Roshi Paco, the final authorization in one's Zen training, by which one becomes a Roshi, Japanese, Old Venerable Teacher, Old Venerable Master. Daiken is the founder and guiding teacher of the Pamsala Zen Center in West Harlem. Prior to focusing on Zen, Daiken was a social worker, working with the homeless, plus those with chronic mental illness and substance abuse issues. Eric Daiken is the founder of Mandala Cafe, a not-for-profit which provides culinary training to those needing job training and placement due to challenges to find and keeping a job. A catering business offering part-time employment and training for individuals in those groups, plus a weekly community meal in Central Harlem and twice monthly meal in Manhattan Valley, UWS for anyone. Thank you so much, Honorable. Actually, thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend the Buddhist Council meetings because that's when we have our meditation group. So I can't, for all of my years of practice, I haven't figured out how to be two places at one time. And thank you for that introduction. And so in the Soto Zen tradition, we have 16 bodhisattva precepts that we follow, guideposts to help us live an aware and compassionate life. And there's the three treasures of the Buddha and Dharma and Sangha. And then what are called the three pure precepts, which are to do no harm, to do good, and to do good for others. So my understanding of one of the central tenets of Buddhism is that we're all part of this one great body. And we all have that level of understanding to some degree, and meditation practice and other practices that we have encourages us to deepen that understanding. So when we have that understanding, then we blur that line between self and other. And so from that, then that gives rise, that wisdom, that understanding of our interrelatedness and co-arising in this moment gives rise to compassion and loving kindness and equanimity and kind of sympathetic joy, in that we're all connected and we all share each other's joys and sorrows. And from that, then we find a way to act. We find something to do to be of service to this one body. And that, on one level, serves ourself in that it's a use of our energies and interests. And it also does benefit for other beings. And so what we do with we have the Pamsula Zen Center, which it's a meditation group. It's been around for 7 years now, and we have sitting, and we do, kind of all of the traditional rites of passage of baby blessings and weddings and funerals and memorials, and we also have a meditation group, and at this point, for a variety of reasons, we're online, and our group has opened up to, because of that, our group has opened up outside of the New York metropolitan area. So we have folks from California and North Carolina and Vermont and Boston and Westchester, and it's an amazing time in that we can provide this opportunity for people from all over to participate with us and to join a community. And then after receiving Dharma transmission and being authorized to teach in kind of the White Plum lineage, we're kicked out of the nest and told to go forth and manifest your practice in some way. And as it was mentioned, I had been a social worker for a dozen years or so, and I had also, starting in high school, been involved in the food service world, from washing dishes to serving to cooking to managing them and everything in between. And also one place that I found myself in the different communities in which I have practiced is I found myself coordinating the kitchen during retreats. And so I became the Tenzo, which was a great practice for me. I loved being in the kitchen and having people, different group of people every day come in to work and to prep the meals. And so I did that many, many times. And so after kind of being told to go forth and find your way, I decided to kind of weave all of those threads together and came up with the Mandala Cafe. And we have a culinary training program we're currently recruiting, and we'll start as soon as we have kind of enough people. We do a 12-week training for folks who aspire to have a job in the food service, in the culinary world. We've made connections with different restaurants and different restaurant groups here in New York to try to place people after that. And we also do life skills, and we teach meditation, and we teach Tai Chi and yoga and other kind of mindfulness and movement techniques to help people both in their work world and also kind of in their day-to-day life. And then we also have a catering business, which unfortunately has been suspended for 2 years now. Our last job that we had was February of 2020. But that's kind of on-the-job training and some part-time employment for folks. And then we've also, since 2016, we've been involved in providing community meals for people. And we had to take a break because of the pandemic, but we resumed in May of 2020. So we're, just about 3 months short of doing that for 2 years. And since that time, we've prepared and handed out over 25,000 meals to folks. We've had over 1,250 volunteers show up to help us, and that created over 3,500 hours of service for both folks from the Buddhist community, but then also other groups. And during this time of the pandemic and the wave of unemployment that happened, we went from serving 50 to 75 meals a week to well over 250 meals. So it's like a 3 to 5 fold increase in the need for folks. And we've tried to move this out of the concept of a soup kitchen, in that we see that this is feeding all of our neighbors. And so we prep inside, we cook, and then we take the food to a church, and we prep inside and put everything in bags, and we hand it out on the sidewalk at the 2 meals that we do. And it's available for anyone. So we have folks who are clearly kind of on some of the rougher edges. And we also have folks who are walking home from work, and we're able to provide them a meal. And we have in the Wednesday meal that we do, it's in a predominantly African Muslim neighborhood. So we have folks from that community who make use of our food as well. And so again, we don't make those distinctions. We're just giving food to whomever. And you know, this idea of socially engaged practice, I think, is important. That it's great to sit on a cushion and to work on one's own understanding and one's own ability to be present. And again, as I said, I think we all have this understanding of our interconnectedness. And so from that, I think it's important for us to find a way to be of service in the world. And for me, it's been creating the training opportunities and the employment opportunities, as well as just simply providing a meal to anyone who needs it in now 3 neighborhoods. And you know, somewhere around 1,700 meals each month that we're giving to all of our neighbors, because I see that we're all neighbors. And so okay, I believe that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Daiken Nelson. I think your key words, you actually did a great job of summing up what we're doing here today. Socially engaged practice is more than just sitting on one's cushion, but to bring the peace, compassion, love, kindness, joy, hope to others into the world. In your case, with food, caring, training, catering, a life of service, training. We saw with Ven Youwang and all the other speakers. I think that's what it is. We cannot sit back and watch others suffer while we can help cure or aid them in their suffering. So with that, we only have, I'm mindful of the time, but I do want to have a 15-minute breakout. So I'm going to keep it a little longer. Another 3 o'clock. It'll be 3:10. I promise. I'm one of those people who try to keep things short and sweet. But I want us to have that moment together when we can at least discuss based upon what you've heard. Whether Youwang, she gave a wonderful presentation at the beginning, but also I see the Chi Foundation, they also do similar types of things. Many of us do a lot of different things in our individual silos. But we need to figure out a way so that we can come together so that we can be of one mind, one Mahasangha, with the Buddhist Council. That's what I've been trying to do, make it so that we can be one voice so that we can have an impact on the city of New York. I think it was very helpful today that many leaders in the city, some of who don't, they don't know Buddhism that well, hear about what we're doing behind the scenes, and more importantly, why we do it. Why are we doing it? And we're not just thinking about our own communities, but we're thinking in an interfaith way, meaning the Buddhist path is for everyone. Doesn't matter what the label that they put on themselves or what they choose to follow. We are going to offer aid to them. So I wanted people to know that. So I'm going to break out people in the breakout room. If people did not want to participate in the breakout room, I understand it. That's okay. I'm a teacher at Brooklyn College. So I get students who disappear all the time when I do the breakout rooms. That's all right. But I really think it's important for at least the Buddhist community to speak for at least 10 to 15 minutes to try and figure out what things we learned from this. Okay, does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, some people don't know probably how to do the breakout.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign automatically. You'll see a thing and it says join. And when you see the button join, you press join and you'll go into those little breakout rooms. And so I'm going to do it now. I'm going to say, let's say 5. Let's make it 6. Let's do that. Let's make it 6 breakout rooms. That's good. Assign automatically. And I'm going to create them. And there you go. You don't have to stay. Of course, I know some of you may not want to stay. That's fine because you're not, a Buddhist, that kind of thing. That's fine. But if you would like to just listen to the conversation, that's great. Hopefully you're seeing it now. Please join the breakout room and I'll send a message in about 12 to 13 minutes. And then that'll be fine. Some of you will send me messages, they have to go. I appreciate you for coming. This was a very, very important meeting, I believe, because it enables us to say, we need to know that we have to commit to ending the suffering in our communities. More, as he said, Reverend said at the end, than sitting on our cushions. So please join the rooms right now.
I don't see any. Oh, okay. Join the room. Okay.
Say hello to you. Okay.
Hi, how you doing? How you doing? All right, so I wanted to have us. I'm true to my word. I'm true to my word. Let's try and can people just start saying what were some of the ideas? If you can, I don't know if some of you even know how to push your hand up, so you can raise your hand and say, tell me some of the ideas that you had in your breakout rooms that we can start to. Since there are two panels, I can't see everybody. So would people be willing to share what they came up with as a group? And I'm so glad you had a chance to even talk informally. Hey, Rifashi, it's good to see you, of course. I'm so happy Venerable Rifashi is a vice president also of the Buddhist Council of New York. So it's very good to have him here. The Spirit's always guiding me. That's to be kind to others. It's very important. So will anybody be willing to go first? Yes, Venerable Youwang.
Yeah, I want to say thanks, Pastor Gills, and then because we just met Patricia and Patricia Ling, and then from his community, and then we would just have a brief, very happy talk, and then I think that's good, even though this is a Buddhist forum, but we turn out into a little bit like an interfaith. I'm glad, this is how we also can involve into our community more as we know each other more than what we just, we can know more, not just, can be working together, to our community, to our city. Thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
Pastor Gil.
That's very important. Yes, as I said at the beginning, I go by, I call it the Buddhist direction, and Pastor Gil. That's why I'm looking down. I'm not trying to say anything that way. He was an incredible person. He did a tremendous job. He's been on a meeting where it's 3-4 times the number of people on the Zoom call, and he's been very gracious to all the different faith traditions that were on that call. And I think that is what we call Bodhisattva practice. Yes, Officer Kwok.
Yes, I just want to take a moment. I had a brief conversation with the individuals within my room, and they hit on a really good point, and it's something that we see common, with the police force, which is again this idea of being fearful of reporting incidents to police officers. And it was a very, very good point that was made, which was kind of the conversation that's been held for the last 2 years, which is not just that there's a fear of immigration related stuff or a language issue, but also the fear of an escalation when policing, becomes involved. And I really want to take the time again to reassure everyone who's listening here, the vast majority of us, 99.9% of us, at the end of the day, we don't seek violence. We never do. We're not here to find violence. Not one of us goes into work thinking, today, let me get involved in a violent situation. We want to do our best to de-escalate. So I want to reiterate again to people, to let people know we're here to help you. We want you to understand that that's our goal. And when you call us, especially if you call us before a crime happens, it really, really tremendously reduces the likelihood of an escalation, because it allows us to approach a person not in the commission of a crime, or while they're not. It's not after the commission of a crime where that we have to be suspicious whether or not this person may be the person who committed the crime. So again, I stress what I said initially, which was, hey, if you see something, let us know, even if it hasn't become a crime yet, because that'll give us a chance to approach this person on a very level baseline, low 1 out of 10 approach, rather than after the fact, after a crime or some heinous thing has happened. Now we have to come to this person in a suspicious manner, because it creates that sort of situation.
Thank you, Officer Kwok. General Nakagaki.
Yes. So we have just the three of us, but actually Rachel, Mar, Amar from the guild brought too, so which was very wonderful. And then we have with the Sirbi, and maybe one thing that we have discussed was little different question and so forth if the office has. But one thing that we spoke about mindfulness, since we have a lot of Buddhism as that, in a way, the specialty for mind. So that's the part of the tradition that we have. So maybe that's like a mindfulness as the way to help the city with mental health program. So that's something that we discuss. So thank you.
That's very important, because a lot of times people don't realize that mindfulness can cool the passions that sometimes arise in a person's mind, which can lead to imbalance. So it's not a small thing. Ven Youwang. You're on mute. You muted yourself.
I'm sorry. I just want to, because I invited a special guest, to this time to our forum. I would just want to request an opportunity for her to say a couple words to us. She's in Florida, Orlando, and she's our late Dhamma teacher, Aina Denton. And then I think she also she was in the breakout room. Maybe she can say a couple words to us. Aina.
Hi, Aina. How you doing?
I know you get used to my surprise, so say something. Come on, please.
We have been friends for a long time, and she does these things to me. I actually had to come inside because I'm down to like 3% battery. So here I am. What I was interested in being here in Orlando, we're in the landlocked part of Florida, and we have sort of a disparate Buddhist community. And one of the things that I'm interested in is how you are pulling together to address issues instead of some of the Buddhist communities kind of out of fear hiding from the community. So I thank Venerable Youwang for inviting me to this so that I can get some ideas of where to do a little push and pull in our community. And in fact, I'm meeting with the abbess of a Korean lineage Zen center here in Orlando next week. And she's kind of a shaker and mover too. So maybe we'll get some things going. So I really appreciate being part of this and being able to be, I thought, a silent observer.
That's all right, and I'm glad you said something, because the truth of the matter is that's one of the key things. I always say the lighthouse doesn't know how many ships that it can stop from crashing into the rocks of disaster. Perhaps your being here will stop a crime or bring someone else into the path of passion, compassion, love, kindness, and joy, and end their suffering. So we don't know how, our interactions are sort of mysterious. And that's why it's very important that you were here today. Anybody else? Who's there? Someone said something. I heard a voice. I know I'm not hearing voices yet. I haven't crossed over that line. So is anyone else? Because there's a lot here.
How about
one of the things.
Wayne?
What'd you say? Wayne? I can't see. Okay. Oh, Wayne. Yes, Wayne. Hi. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Our group is only 3 people, just like many of you. We don't have too many people, but today that we have a quick talk. From what we learned from today is that we really appreciate that the officer that came joined, and also the pastor joined. And I think this is a very important point that as a practitioner or as a Buddhist, that we all know that we have the time, we will practice, we will do mindfulness, we will do meditation, self-cultivating. But when so I'm very appreciate that Reverend T.K. Nakagaki, he mentioned about the information, because I don't live in New York, so I live in New Jersey, so I don't have much information about that. But what I heard, that I appreciate that, but that worries me that there's not much voice for Chinese community, and I'm very grateful that he will bring up this to convey this information about that and the concern. And I want to go back and it's like pastor and also the office Kwok, this is mentioned about this. If you see something, say something. All right. But apparently right now for the past 2 years, the crime rate is increased a lot. So for our people, for Buddhists, how can we work together? Just like the last time that we have walked together to grab people's attention. Hey, this is important. This is not the society that we can mind our own business. We can cultivate that ourselves. And this is go the other direction because a lot of people in the fire right now, they have hate crime. They have hate in their mind. So how can we work together? Because I know the Buddhist has a lot of practicing. Everybody's doing the different thing or the similar thing. But how can we gather the effort together? Can we do that and associate with officer, associate with the religious group like a pastor or Jewish temple or all together? And I appreciate that James Lynch that and also TK in the past that joined us together, the Buddhist community together. And I think that it looks like this is an important time too now. So I guess how we work together, bring up a platform to gather the strength, the force together, try to solve something to improve this, the peace, the world. So we appreciate your effort and so many people's effort. Everybody joined together, but really hope that we can group our effort together. Thank you
so much. Wayne, I was just going to say one quick thing to you. It's been, I look at things as they are. In my particular tradition in Buddhism, we say looking things as they are. And so many times people talk around things. But I think that one of the best things to do is to look at things as they are so that we can have peace and compassion for real. Venerable Nakagaki said something very important, that wisdom is not just emotional, but you have to have the intellectual portion of it together. They both work as two wings of the bird so that we can fly together. But that means recognizing the real connectivity amongst everybody and realize that there's beautiful flourishing from many different communities, the Chinese, Korean, Japanese, African-American, Latino, Jewish, Korean, all these different traditions come together to make the flower beautiful, the lotus look beautiful. But we must look at things as they are so that we can revere each other for real and not pretend that we're doing that. So that's why I think it's a really exciting time to be here, because we're like the pioneers. Years ago, 200, 300 years ago, we are the pioneers who are going to make that change possible. Not alone, but with everyone else. We saw some beautiful efforts, IBS, Tutsi Foundation, many different efforts. Many people coming together to change the world, one person at a time. It may seem impossible, but the Buddha started out with a small handful of people. Today, we're practicing all around the world, all different races, faith paths that we came together. So it is possible and it will happen. Anyway, that's my feeling. So I'm very thankful to your words. And we use those as true North principles going forward. Anyone else have anything? Because I'm writing it down, and what I'm going to do, you can't read my chicken scratch yet. And no one can steal my notes ever. But Ven Youwang is going to have to leave in a second, so I want to thank her again openly. I want to thank her for her efforts on making this event a successful one. I'm really appreciative. But there's so many things we have to do together. But the base idea is that's why we're having this dialogue. We need to take a half a step together. If we take a half a step, then we're in the right direction. But if we're all in our own little silos and we're only doing our little thing, then things will happen to people and we'll say nice prayers for them. And then we'll go back until the next bad incident occurs and we'll keep doing that and doing that and doing that. And that's not necessarily what we need to do for progress. Anybody else? Anything else that anyone wants to say? I got a few things, but there's a lot that came out of this. I hope we got it. And you did say it, Wayne, which is key. We had Pastor Gill come, which was like having the mayor himself come. I hope everybody understands that. At the mayor's breakfast, Ven Youwang has to go, but she can tell you for a fact that the mayor specifically said that this department that they set up, Office on Faith and Community Partnerships, is the most important department in city government. He specifically said that. You look at it on YouTube. He specifically is the first mayor to do these actions. What he's really trying to say, without saying not the rituals per se, because anybody can do the rituals, he's saying the spiritual force of the people must be invigorated, and that he is requesting that the Buddhist community step up and help heal the people. I think we won't forget them, and we won't let them down. We will do what we have to do, even if it's great difficulty. You know, I think we'll do it. I'm very excited that the time is now. Venerable Nakagaki is on the call. Bhante Kandanya is not here, but we have to thank Venerable Bhante Kandanya, T.K. Nakagaki, Venerable Pietisa, who's passed away, for their efforts. This is the dream that they were hoping for. For this moment now, we get to be the Buddha's hands, tongue, and feet. Right? For real. So with that, does anyone else have anything else to say, or are we going to have Venerable
I wanted to say something. I didn't realize it. You look a little different from Edlin. Are you Edlin or no?
Yeah, that's Eddie.
Yeah, because I was wondering who you are, but in
I'm sorry, I didn't change my name to Edward Lin. I still got that vegan Tao thing. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I knew who you
no,
were.
that's why I was wondering who this guy was. So it was nice to see you anyway.
Thank you for inviting me, Reverend TK. Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone.
Oh no, Eddie's great. Last time I saw it, we were at, what was he doing? We were at the park, right? That Venerable Nakagaki had set us up for the what was it? Meditate NYC, and
yes.
we had to walk on the train and everything. This last time, a while back. So that's great to see him. But anyway, let's close out together in a peaceful steps with Venerable Doyeon, offering the closing prayer. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all, especially for the speakers today, such informative and insightful words. And I'm also grateful for all the participants for your peaceful presence and for your genuine heart to bring more compassion, kindness, and wisdom in our mind and in our society. Reverend James Lynch, our dear friend and the president of the Buddhist Council of Europe, in the beginning beautifully addressed that we as Buddhist practitioners, I'm paraphrasing, we don't run away from the challenges we face today, but we transform it. So we practice Dharma to transform delusion into wisdom, greed into generosity, resentment into gratitude, and hatred into compassion. And today, while I was listening to various speakers, a passage just came from the Dharmapada. Quotes, you may all know this. If you find the intelligent companion, a fellow traveler, a sage of good conduct, you should travel together, delighted and mindful, overcoming all dangers, end quote. So I think today we all have met companions. We can travel together from the city office, from New York Police Department. So it's always nice to have, someone, our brothers and sisters, to walk together. So I am very grateful for that. I thought as we close today, I want to offer the 4 great vows as a reminder that we all should keep in our mind together. The 4 great vows: sentient beings are numberless, we vow to save them. Delusions are endless, vow to eliminate them. Teachings are infinite, we vow to learn them. Supreme enlightenment is inconceivable, we vow to attain it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jim. Okay, thank you, Reverend Nakagaki.
Thank you, everybody. Please be safe.
Blessings, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, James, as always.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
Wonderful. Thank you.
we'll put up the video somehow later on. So hope we can share in the Buddhist Council webpage or something. Okay.
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful.
thank you again. And you. So that's I didn't know. I was gonna ask I wasn't sure whether Mr. Freeman is here or not. I saw you many times. Thank you for joining. And yeah. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, but no, I can't hear you, Mr. Freeman.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just say thank you. Yes, I enjoy and I learn a lot. Thank you.
You know,
for
we did a
your
lot of work together for Tsuchi Foundation. Has been always very active, and then I saw at least Steve is here, and then you're here, and then the other was here too. So it was very wonderful that you're able to come. Yeah.
Thank you. See you around.
Yeah. I'll see
Thank
you.
you,
We'll work together again. All right.
Okay. Bye bye.
Then Rachel,
Bye-bye.
thank you again for staying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, James. Yeah.
All right, bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.